My name's Rory. I'm a new partner consultant with Receipt Bank. So my role is effectively to work with new and prospective partners who potentially want to join Receipt Bank, join our partner program and adopt Receipt Bank as part of their practices processes. A little bit of background around us. I won't go into too much of it, but to give you an idea, we were conceived in 2010 and we were created by what you would call a bad client. So our founder, Michael Wood, who ran his own business at that point, was the sort of client who was coming in on Christmas Eve with a bag of disorganised receipts and saying, just please give me the numbers. And they were coming in, they were crumpled, they weren't in any sort of order. And he decided he needed to go out and get a solution. And he found one called Receipt Farm, went out and asked them to take care of his receipts. And they said, we would, but we're closing down. So he decided to buy them. He created Receipt Bank, and 8 years later, we've now got 25,000 accountants and bookkeepers using us worldwide, a little over 6,000 unique practices. I think we're maybe getting close to 7,000 actually now. We processed over 50 million receipts and invoices last year. And we've got over, well, these numbers are a little bit out of date, but over 140,000 SMEs globally as well now. So the purpose behind Receipt Bank and what we're looking to do is help connect you with your clients, looking to create what we call internally the bookkeeping circle, but effectively getting the data from your clients as easily as possible and allowing you the time and capacity to put the value on top of that data and actually provide these advisory services that Phil was just speaking about. So obviously the hot topic is MTD, and that's sort of what we're going to focus on. These are the classic challenges within the bookkeeping process. What we are looking at is, with the changes coming in next year, how much more are you going to have to deal with? If clients are now going to have to report 4 times a year, do you have the capacity and the scalable processes to deal with that? If your clients are not very good at bringing in their receipts and invoices on time, if they're not very good at getting those digitized to you, if you're having to do it internally and you're having to manage that data yourself, have you got the capacity to deal with that when come April they finally realise that MTD is happening and they come in and ask you, can you please do it for us? So this is the results of the survey from Xero, the Digital or Die survey. And these are some of the results of where Xero found that you guys are spending most of your time. And these are the basic pain points within the bookkeeping process. So looking at where you're spending most of your time on a day-to-day basis and where could you be better spending that time. If we can automate that time spent on the bookkeeping and processing time, if we can actually take out the manual data entry, there are things that you can be doing with that. These are 3 things that we would speak about from our perspective because, we would always look at practices as wanting to grow. But actually, as Phil mentioned, it could be a case that maybe you just want to spend more time with the family, take Friday off, whatever it might be. But if we can give you back that time on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis across the practice, where can you reappropriate that time? So this is, I think, where we would like everyone to get to, and certainly from our perspective in the ivory towers of the software world, this is where we want all clients to be eventually. It's getting clients to actually engage with the bookkeeping and actually deal with the aspect of submissions themselves and actually send the paperwork to you automatically. Using a software like ourselves, extracting all that information automatically, so you're just spending your time managing it and then focusing on the advisory service on top of that. Basically giving you back the capacity to spend that time within the practice elsewhere. I apologise I'm rushing through this, but I'm aware that we are under a time pressure. What I'm actually going to do is show you how it works, because I think that's probably going to be the easiest way to do it. So, it's unfortunately a little bit smaller, but that's okay. So the idea of Receipt Bank is to basically give you back that visibility over the client's bookkeeping on a day-to-day basis. The story that Rebecca just spoke about was actually very, very telling. It's the sort of thing that we do talk about with our potential partners on a day-to-day basis. Actually, if you have that information on a real-time basis, how can you be adding the value to it? And if it's a case of saying, why are you serving food on a Monday and Tuesday, and the client didn't realise that, that's great, but that's information you need to have to be able to tell them that. So on Receipt Bank, what we've created is our partner program, and our partner program is designed to give you a central license as a practice to basically use Receipt Bank across the whole client base. So typically we would speak to our partners about how many bookkeeping clients do you have at the moment, and generally speaking, we look at what we call a bookkeeper to client ratio. It generally tends to sit between 10 and 20 clients per person, and how well are you able to use that capacity internally. what we're looking at with Receipt Bank is, can we increase that? Can we look at 30, 40, 50 clients per person being able to handle the bookkeeping? So that come next April, when another 50, 100 clients come into the door asking you to do their bookkeeping for them, are you going to have to increase your your staff base, sorry, or are you going to have to take on a software and actually increase your capacity internally? So, from a Receipt Bank perspective, what we've created is a central location where you can get visibility over all the clients that you work with. So I won't go into all the detail, but suffice to say, every client has their own individual inbox, so they can be submitting their items remotely to you in real time with all the information extracted. When you come in, you can see everything they're submitting on a day-to-day basis. In terms of submissions, we've got sort of 4 main methods. This is a drag and drop. This is really to be used as an internal tool. It's not what we would say is the idealistic view of using Receipt Bank. It's not the full cloud client that we would tend to spout as the ideal. But if you've got clients that do come in with a bag or box of receipts and invoices, you can just be scanning things up internally rather than sitting there and typing it in yourself. Scan it up, drag and drop it into Receipt Bank. We process it in the background. A bit like having an employee, you don't have to feed or water. And we'll just run through all of it for you so you can concentrate on other things during the day. But if you can get your clients actually doing the submissions themselves, there's sort of 3 best ways to do it. So the first is, if your clients are getting their invoices from their suppliers by PDF or via invoice already, what you can just get them doing is just forwarding them onto you by email. Just get them emailing to you, and rather than it clogging up your email inbox, just get them to forward it straight into Receipt Bank. So you're not having to actually sort through your emails every day to find the invoices from that client. It's going straight into Receipt Bank. The second one, this is quite a good feature that we've just recently launched. It's called Auto Fetch. What we can actually now do is link in with your client's online accounts. So if anyone's got any Amazon sellers or eBay sellers, or anyone who's got a lot of their utility suppliers have those online accounts where you have to log in and they have to download the invoice and forward it onto you, and you'd be forever chasing them to do it. What we can actually now do is link in directly to those. So you log in directly to that account, and we'll sweep through once a week or so and pull in all the invoices automatically. So the client doesn't actually have to do anything to be submitting those invoices. They'll just be coming straight into Receipt Bank on a week-to-week basis just to get all that information without you having to chase them for anything. And the one that we always tout, because it is the most widely used amongst our partners, is our mobile app. So when your client gets to the till, they've taken out one of their clients out for a coffee, they get the receipt, they just take a picture of it, and it comes straight into Receipt Bank without them having to keep it. You know, they don't have to do anything, they don't have to take it home, they don't have to, at the end of the quarter, look in the glove box, under the front seat, in the backs of jeans. They just take a picture of it there and then, and they throw that receipt away. They don't have to keep it anywhere. What we'll do automatically is we'll extract the date, the supplier, the total, and the tax, and then we fully integrate with all the major cloud softwares, so Xero, QuickBooks, Sage, Cashflow, Free Agent. We just recently launched integration with Sage 50 for any clients that haven't moved on to those softwares yet. What you can then do, and I'll show you Xero because they're probably the most popular at this point, is we'll actually integrate directly with them. So you're just categorizing the information and hitting publish, and it goes straight into Xero, just ready to be reconciled against the bank feeds. So a really simple workflow for you. And then what we do is once you've published it, we store it in our archive. It's stored for over 7 years. So it's fully HMRC compliant. So your clients don't have to keep any of that paperwork. If you've got, whole hallways full of paperwork and full of filing cabinets, you can start to think about getting rid of those, put them through Receipt Bank, put any future paperwork through Receipt Bank, so you're not actually just filling out the office and going more towards that paperless office, which I know has been a buzzword for 10 years or so, but it might actually be vaguely possible now. And that's the workflow. So really simple. This is our simple software. It's called Extract. It's very simple to use, very simple to actually use with your clients. We've got a lot of partners that just go out and just be very prescriptive with their clients on it. An example of that is one of our partners, not that one, Murat. So Murat joined us about 18 months ago with about 50 clients, and he was sole practitioner. And he's just sort of going, I'm sure some of you will know the situation, but early mornings, late nights, weekends, not a lot of holidays, spending all of his time just getting the bookkeeping done on a day-to-day basis. He'd actually joined us a couple of times beforehand. I'd never quite committed to the idea. But 18 months ago, he decided to join us. He went all in, decided to use Receipt Bank as a prescriptive part of his process. If a client wanted to work with him, they had to use Receipt Bank. 18 months later, he's now got 140 clients, actually a little bit out of date, he's over 150 now, when we spoke to him a couple of weeks ago. And he's still working on his own. It's still just him, and he bookkeeps for all of his clients. They all use Receipt Bank, and then he puts it all into, I think he's using Sage 1 at the moment as his primary software. But he's still working on his own, so his overheads are just himself. It's just his tea and coffee during the day, and he just works on all 140 clients, doing all of their bookkeeping for them. And it's just about increasing, let's say, what we call the bookkeeper to client ratio, actually maximising what you can do on a day-to-day basis with all of your clients. And fortunately for us, he does attribute it to using Receipt Bank to really maximise what he can do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to be here this afternoon. I'm sure we can run through a few questions. I think we've still got 6 or 7 minutes. But I'll be here all afternoon, so if you do want to come and speak to me and find out a little bit more about the process and how some of our partners use it, please do. If anyone's got any questions, we can go through those as well now as well. Thank you. How much?
The man who's been sitting next to you has got a question.
See.
With the snapping receipts on your phone
Yeah.
function, if you got, say, I know Sainsbury's do this, they have some information on the front, some on the back. How does it
That's a
work
great
with that?
question. I love being asked questions like that because we do have a solution for it. So on our mobile app, basically there's 3 ways you can do it. You can take a single photo, you can take multiple photos, you can take up to 50 photos in one go. And we've got a combine function as well. So Sainsbury's is the best example of this, where they put the VAT on the back. You can take a picture of both sides and it sends it through and it'll treat it as one receipt.
And for something like B&Q, you can get a receipt that goes on for 3 metres.
Yeah, you know, if it stretches from here to the other room, just go all the way along, taking pictures of it, and we'll process it all in one go.
Right.
Got one way over at the far end, Debbie. And so Rebecca, have you got one? Okay. Well, just.
Cheers. All right, just on one receipt, if you can have multiple VAT codes, or some of it will have the 0 rated, some of it will be VATable. Will it pick that up on Receipt Bank, or is that something you have to then input the information yourself then to let it know what's not got VAT on and what has?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's probably going into quite a bit of detail. So on Receipt Bank Extract, which I just showed you, the whole idea is just around the collection and process, so getting everything into, for example, Xero QuickBooks as easily as possible, where at this point, you know, that's the way you split it out generally. We have got more advanced softwares that can do more around editing the line items, but Extract is mostly just focused on creating that workflow straight into Xero as easily as possible. But we can do that in some of our more advanced functions as well. On that?
Okay.
Sorry, Rebecca, I think was in before you.
Yeah, I'll just throw in, I've been a Receipt Bank partner for 2 weeks.
2 weeks, fantastic.
And I've got it going with my 3 biggest clients in terms of bits of paper. And I think they would sack me now if I didn't give them Receipt Bank. They absolutely love it. So it was a big investment for me. It was a real, nail-biter. Do I jump in and do this? And because I haven't got enough clients to justify it. But I would not go back. And my staff absolutely love it. Gentleman's point about line by line, if you imagine a pub and a booker's invoice, you've got food, you've got drink, you've got all sorts. What my daughter does is she will scan it all or photo it all, upload it, and then only the booker's invoices does she really have to go into and break it down.
Yeah.
Everything else, overnight on a Friday, Saturday morning, ready to go.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, it's basically getting to that managing by exception. It's what we talk about. So you're just looking out for the ones that you know you might have to give a bit more attention to. It's a really good point. I mean, one of the things, and I was speaking on the IFA, one of the IFA webinars recently, and we were speaking about a partner of ours who was doing sort of a hybrid approach for a while, using Receipt Bank, was also using, you know, just manual methods, and had some doing some on cloud softwares. And they were seeing a bit of growth, but then they got what we call the hockey stick effect, to the point where they went, okay, we're just going to prescribe this process. We're going to say every client has to use it if they want to work with us. And I realise that's a scary notion, but they were seeing growth, and when they prescribed the process, they saw just a huge upturn in the growth, because they were just able to increase that capacity across the whole practice. It doesn't work for every practice, but that's where they saw that real growth come in.
Got one at this side, and then we'll have right at the other side.
Aye.
You're talking a lot about scanning documents,
Mhm.
but increasingly clients are buying online.
Yep.
You talked about accessing accounts direct. I'd like to know a bit more about that, please.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Because, sorry, can I just say, because if you don't, you're only going to be partially using Receipt Bank. I've looked at it in the past and decided it's pointless unless you can fully use it.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. So the function that we developed recently to deal with this is called auto fetch. I did touch on it briefly. So effectively, what auto fetch can do is link in with those online suppliers. So we've got, I mean, we launched about 6 weeks ago. We've over 2,000 suppliers on there so far, and we have the process in place that you can request any suppliers that might not be on there. Effectively, what it does is it links in directly to those accounts. So rather than the client having to log in, download the accounts, and send them on to you, we link in directly to those, and we fetch out the invoices automatically directly into Receipt Bank. So actually, you're saying to the client, you don't have to do any submission, you don't have to do anything. You just link in directly to that, and we'll pull all the invoices across automatically.
Afraid we're coming up to the time as we have two. There's a lady at the far back there. Ooh, next. All right, well, let's go quick. So try and get through.
Very quick.
That lady, this gentleman, and be quick.
To be fair, not all clients will update take pictures of their invoices daily.
Yep.
Does it recognise a duplicated invoice? It does?
Yeah.
And does that come up as soon as they take the picture, or...?
So when it processes, so our processing times, I mean, it varies. Most of the year it's been about 25 minutes. Last week it was 13 minutes. But when it processes it through, it will recognise a duplicate and automatically merge it, and it will send you a notification, so if you do want to check it, you can.
Oh, great.
Okay, and then
Maybe one more?
gentleman over here, if we're quick, and I think there was one hand waving.
Hi. So how much of Receipt Bank at the moment is OCR, and how much of it is, I suppose, human-powered? And kind of given that split, how does it deal with things that have been handwritten invoices, handwritten receipts, that kind of stuff?
Yes, good question. So the OCR probably accounts for about 90% now. We have got a human team, and the reason they're there is to basically ensure that the accuracy stays high. So as I said at the start, last year we processed over 50 million receipts and invoices, and our accuracy was 99.6, 99.7%, around that sort of area. So the human team's on standby. Typically what they're on standby is everything that comes through is unreadable. So if it's gone through a washing machine, then the software can't read it. The human team goes, yeah, there's no chance we can't read that either. And it's there just to check that. But they do process a certain amount to basically account for any error and ensure that the machine learning continues to improve. With handwritten receipts, we process thousands of those every month. If it's a very, very obscure, if it's an obscure garage in the middle of, rural Wales, where it is, and they've got a very bizarre receipt that no one's ever seen before, we probably don't have a template for it. That's where the human team would come in and have a look at it and create a template so that it remembers that. And the next time someone goes to that garage and snaps a picture of it, our software remembers that and will automatically extract.